All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about this invisible force that's literally all around us, shaping every single purchase you make and every price a business decides on.
Okay, let's kick things off with a little mystery, something you've definitely felt before. Think about it. Why does a 20% off sale on a car cause this huge frenzy, right? But a 20% off sale on, say, table salt goes completely unnoticed? I mean, the discount is exactly the same percentage, so what's the deal?
Well, the answer to that whole puzzle comes down to this really powerful idea in economics called price elasticity of demand. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but it's actually a pretty simple idea. All it does is measure how much we, the consumers, react when the price of something changes. The best way to think about it is like a rubber band. Seriously, just imagine that demand for a product is a rubber band. For some things, just a tiny tug on the price makes that demand stretch a lot. But for other things, you can pull and pull on that price and the demand just barely budges.
All right, let's decode this. We're going to dive into what we call the elasticity spectrum. So you've basically got two ends of the spectrum. On one side, you've got elastic demand. That's your super stretchy rubber band. A tiny little change in price leads to a huge change in how much people want to buy. Then, on the other side, you've got inelastic demand. This is your stiff, not so stretchy band. You can have a massive price change and it barely makes a dent in how much people buy. Now, of course, economists have a formal way to measure all this stuff, but you don't need to get bogged down in the complicated math. It all boils down to one simple number called the coefficient. And the rule is easy. If that number is bigger than 1, demand is elastic. If it's less than 1, it's inelastic. It's just a clean, simple way to classify how sensitive demand really is. So that leads to the big question, right? The why. What actually makes one product's demand stretchy and another one so rigid? Let's uncover the factors.
Okay, number one, and this is the big one, substitutes. Simply put, do you have other options? The more substitutes a product has, the more elastic its demand is going to be. It just makes sense, right? If the price goes up, you just switch to something else.
Take electronics, for example. If one brand jacks up the price of their TVs, you've got tons of other brands to choose from. Demand is super elastic. But then think about gasoline. If the price goes up, what are you going to do? For most of us, there's really no easy, immediate substitute for our commute. That demand is inelastic.
Factor 2 is the proportion of your income. And this takes us right back to that car versus salt mystery. A car? That's a huge chunk of your income. So a 20% discount feels like a massive win. Your demand is elastic. But a little container of salt? It's nothing. It's such a tiny fraction of your budget that even if the price doubled, you probably wouldn't even notice. The demand is super inelastic.
All right, factor 3. Is it a necessity or a luxury? I mean, how much do you really need it? You're going to keep buying food and paying for housing even if prices creep up because, well, they're necessities. That's inelastic demand. It's actually why governments love to tax things like gasoline or cigarettes. They know people will keep buying them. But what about luxuries, like designer clothes? Yeah, those are the very first things we stop buying when prices go up. Totally elastic demand.
And it doesn't stop there. There are a few more key factors to think about, like the time frame. Over time, demand usually gets more elastic because you have time to find those substitutes. Think switching to an electric car. Then there's brand loyalty. If you're a fanatic for a certain brand, your demand is way more inelastic. You'll pay that premium. And of course, the more competition there is and the more information you have as a buyer, the more power you have to switch, which makes demand, you guessed it, more elastic. So if you want a simple way to remember all this, just think of the acronym SPLIT. S is for substitutes, P is for proportion of income, L is for luxury or necessity, I stands for how addictive or habit-forming something is, those are highly inelastic, and T is for time. SPLIT. Pretty handy. Okay, so this is all great theory, but what's the payoff? Let's talk about how this all connects to business strategy. Well, businesses have a really cool tool for this called the total revenue test. And again, don't worry about the formulas. The idea behind it is super simple, and it's an incredibly powerful way for them to predict if changing a price is going to make them more money or less. And this table breaks it down perfectly. This is the crucial part. Look, if your product has elastic demand, that's the stretchy kind, and you raise your price, your total revenue actually goes down. Why? Because you lose too many customers. But if your demand is inelastic, you can raise the price and your total revenue goes up.
It's wild, right? The exact same price change can have the completely opposite effect on your bottom line. You can see why this is just everything for a business. Knowing if your product is a stretchy rubber band or a stiff one is absolutely fundamental. If you price an elastic good too high, you could totally tank your sales. But if you price an inelastic good too low, you're literally just leaving money on the table.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about price, but what about your income? Let's see how that fits in.
Yeah, there's a whole other concept for this, and it's called income elasticity of demand. It helps explain how our spending habits shift with the economy. For example, if you get a raise and suddenly you're buying way more concert tickets, well, those are luxury goods. On the flip side, things like basic groceries are necessities. Your demand doesn't change much with income. And then you have these fascinating things called inferior goods, where demand actually goes up when your income goes down. Think about switching from a fancy brand to the store's generic version.
And this has some massive real-world implications. Think about a recession when people's incomes are falling. The companies selling luxury goods, they're probably going to struggle. But the businesses that offer cheaper alternatives, like fast food places or discount stores, they might actually see a boom in sales. So understanding this stuff helps companies see what's coming and adjust their whole strategy so they can survive or even do really well no matter what the economy is doing.
So now you know the rules. The next time you're out and you see a sale or you notice a price has gone up, just take a second and think about it. Is your demand for that morning coffee, that tank of gas, or that new phone elastic or not? You're going to start seeing this powerful, unseen force everywhere.